Also in news was the tripling renewable power and doubling the energy efficiency by 2030. It's a report. This report was jointly launched by the COP28 presidency country and the International Renewable Energy Agency and Global Renewables Alliance. This report was launched on the sidelines of a pre-COP event that was held in Abu Dhabi, UAE. This report outlines some key enablers to triple the global renewable power capacity to 11,000 gigawatts and also to double the average annual energy efficiency improvement by 2030. So what are the 5 key enablers to achieve this objective by 2030 that was highlighted by the report? The 5 key enablers include infrastructure and system operation, policy and regulations, supply chains, skill and capacity building, finance and international collaboration. These are the 5 key enablers using which the report highlights that these 2 objectives can be achieved by 2030. There is also a need to cut down 22 gigatons of greenhouse gases emissions by 2030 to keep the 1.5 degrees Celsius within the reach. The report also highlighted the requirement or the need to cut down 22 gigatons of greenhouse gases emissions by 2030 to keep the 1.5 degrees Celsius warming within the reach. Prime Minister of India has launched Mera Yuva Bharat or My Bharat platform on the National Unity Day on October 31, 2023. Now what is this Mera Yuva Bharat platform that was launched by the Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi? My Bharat or Mera Yuva Bharat is an autonomous body that is being set up by the Government of India to provide an overarching institutional mechanism powered by technology for youth development or empowerment and youth-led development or empowerment. So this platform was established as an autonomous body by the Government of India with the help of technology for youth development and the youth-led development. It is an initiative of the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports to empower the Indian youth through social mobility, educational equity and by way of imparting practical skills among the youth. This Mera Yuva Bharat or My Bharat platform connects the youth of India with programs and learning opportunities in business, government, departments and also not-profit organizations. The establishment of My Bharat and what are the objectives that the Government of India is trying to achieve by way of the My Bharat platform. It tries to impart the leadership skills in the youth by leadership development in the youth and also for better alignment between the aspirations of the youth and the needs and the goals of the communities. It also aims at enhancing the efficiency through convergence of various existing programs related to the youth development and empowerment. This My Bharat platform also acts as a one-stop shop for young people and also various ministries. It also creates a centralized database related to the information pertaining to the youth. It also ensures accessibility by creating a phygital ecosystem, which is a blend or a combination of both physical and also digital experiences in one single tool, that is phygital ecosystem. My Bharat platform will benefit the youth in the age group of 15 to 29 years only. Why? Because this is the definition of youth according to the National Youth Plan. National Youth Policy defined the age of youth as 15 to 29. So in line with the guidelines of the National Youth Policy, My Bharat will also benefit all those people who are considered as youth in the age group of 15 to 29. In the case of program components specifically meant for adolescents, the beneficiaries will be selected from the age group of 10 to 19 years. In all those cases where some of the program components specifically cater to the adolescents, the age criteria will be 10 to 19 years only. But for the youth, the age criteria will be 15 to 29 years. The Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers has released an approach paper on the draft National Pharmaceuticals Policy 2023. Now, what is this draft National Pharmaceuticals Policy of 2023? This policy, this draft, serves as a comprehensive framework to address all the challenges faced by the Indian pharmaceutical industries, and also it aims at providing definitive policy interventions to enhance the collective ecosystem of pharmaceutical industry in India. This draft policy tries to address all the challenges which are faced by the Indian pharmaceutical industries, and at the same time it also aims at providing definitive policy interventions and measures to enhance the collective ecosystem of pharmaceutical industry in India. This draft policy has highlighted some of the challenges faced by the Indian pharmaceutical sectors. So, what are these challenges according to the draft policy that are faced by the Indian pharmaceutical sector? The high degree of import dependence on active pharmaceutical ingredients and key starting materials. This draft policy has highlighted the high degree of import dependence for active pharmaceutical ingredients or APIs and key starting materials which are used for various pharmaceutical processes. The relatively low pace of development of biologics, biosimilars and other emerging products and trends. Regulation inefficiencies and inaccuracies, lack of skilled human resources and access to funding. Now, what are the objectives of the National Pharmaceuticals Policy? It aims at fostering global pharmaceuticals leadership. This pharmaceuticals policy aims at establishing India as a global pharmaceuticals leader. It also aims at promoting self-reliance in the field of pharmaceuticals and also for advancing health equity and accessibility. It also tries to enhance the regulatory efficiency in the Indian pharmaceutical sector and also to attract investments from various sources. Some of the focus areas of the National Pharmaceuticals Policy: nurturing and promoting research, development and innovation in the field of pharmaceuticals, affordable, accessible and equitable access to health coverage, facilitating access to funding, regulatory harmonization by way of creating a conducive regulations including price regulation and transparency. These are some of the focus areas of the draft National Policy on Pharmaceuticals or draft National Pharmaceuticals Policy 2023. Furthermore, to initiate capacity building and development of skilled manpower potential, enhancing the policy and program interlinkages, international collaboration, infrastructure development or enhancement, leveraging the digital transformation and sustainability and or reducing carbon footprint, strengthening of intellectual property rights systems. Some important background information about the Indian pharmaceutical industry is also good to know information. India has the third largest pharmaceutical industry in the entire world in terms of volume. India is, in terms of volume, the third largest pharmaceutical industry in the entire world. India is also recognized as the pharmacy of the world, as India exports pharmaceuticals to around 200 countries and territories. India's vaccine industry caters to more than 60% of the global vaccine requirements or demands. This was quite evident during the times of the COVID-19, when the government of India has exported vaccines to many countries that are in need for vaccines. India's vaccine industry caters to more than 60% of the global demand for vaccines. Next important current event: India hosts the 6th session of the International Solar Alliance in New Delhi. India has hosted the 6th session of the International Solar Alliance Assembly in New Delhi. The International Solar Alliance Assembly, ISA Assembly, is the apex decision-making body of the International Solar Alliance, where each member country is represented. This International Solar Alliance Assembly makes important decisions with respect to the implementation of the framework agreement of the ISA and also for coordinating the actions to be taken to achieve its objective. So, this assembly and the decisions taken in the assembly are concerned with respect to the implementation of the framework agreement of the International Solar Alliance and also to coordinate actions towards achieving its objectives. This International Solar Alliance Assembly meets annually at the ministerial level. So, this is an annual affair. So, the 6th session of the ISA Assembly was held in New Delhi. Some of the key highlights of the assembly include increase in the viability gap funding cap for solar projects from 10% to 35% of the project cost. The International Solar Alliance Assembly has decided to increase the viability gap funding cap for solar projects from the existing 10% to 35% for all the project costs. The ISA program for viability gap funding provides funding for projects in developing countries. The ISA program for viability gap funding provides funding opportunities for projects in all the developing countries. The International Solar Alliance has also announced that the Global Solar Facility or GSF is set to receive a capital contribution of $35 million. The International Solar Alliance has decided to establish the Global Solar Facility, and in the recently concluded assembly, it has also announced that the Global Solar Facility is expected to receive a capital contribution of $35 million. In 2022, the ISA Assembly has approved the Global Solar Facility, which is expected to attract private capital funding to flow into the off-grid solar projects, rooftop solar projects and productive use solar projects. The Global Solar Facility was announced by the ISA Assembly in the previous session that was held in 2022, which it expects to attract private capital to flow into off-grid solar projects, rooftop solar projects and productive use solar projects. The Global Solar Facility will provide payment guarantee funds, insurance funds to mitigate project risks and investment funds for technical assistance. GSF is designed in such a way so as to catalyze the solar investments in the underserved segments and also geographies across Africa. After Africa, the Global Solar Facility aims to expand to other regions such as Asia, Latin America and Middle East. So, in Asia, Latin America and also in Middle East, the Global Solar Facility is trying to expand after Africa. Also in news was Rajaji Tiger Reserve. The Uttarakhand government has decided to establish Rajaji Tiger Reserve Conservation Foundation. The Uttarakhand state government has decided to establish Rajaji Tiger Reserve Conservation Foundation CF. Some important background information about the Rajaji Tiger Reserve. It is named after the freedom fighter Chakravartula Rajagopalachari, popularly known as Rajaji. This Rajaji Tiger Reserve is situated along the hills of Shivalik hill ranges and in the transition zone between the temperate western Himalayas and the central Himalayan region. The forest types that can be found in the Rajaji Tiger Reserve include semi-evergreen, deciduous and mixed broadleaf and terai grasslands. Semi-evergreen forests, deciduous forests, mixed broadleaf forests and terai grasslands are the forest types that can be found in Rajaji Tiger Reserve. River Ganga and Song flows through the Rajaji Tiger Reserve. Flora includes red morning glory, Malabar, melastome and sal trees. whereas the fauna includes leopard, Himalayan black bear, sloth bear, spotted deer and barking deer, and the other animals can be spotted in the Rajaji Tiger Reserve. Blue flag certification. In India, we have 12 blue flag certified beaches. Now, what is this blue flag certification? Blue flag is one of the world's most recognized voluntary awards for beaches, marines and sustainable tourism both. Blue flag certification is run by the international non-governmental organization called as Foundation for the Environmental Education, Foundation for Environmental Education or FEE, which is headquartered in Copenhagen of Denmark. So, this Foundation for Environment Education or FEE, which was headquartered in Denmark, Copenhagen, is running the international non-governmental initiative called as Blue Flag Certification. This Blue Flag Certification initiative was first started in the year 1985 in France, and since then it has been implemented outside of Europe in 2001 onwards. For the award, the high standards in 4 categories of water quality, environmental management, environmental education and safety must be met. So, these 4 criteria should be met in order to receive the Blue Flag certification by the Foundation for Environment Education. So, what are these 4 criteria? Water quality, environmental management, environmental education and safety. If all these 4 criteria are met, then that particular ecology, that particular marine or beach will be certified with Blue Flag by the Foundation for Environment Education. Project on station area development. Also in news was the project on station area development along Mumbai-Ahmedabad semi-high speed rail transport, also known as Project SMART. Project on station area development along Mumbai-Ahmedabad semi-high speed rail transport, or also known as Project SMART. So, what is this Project SMART that was in news? The Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, MoHUA, has reviewed the progress of Project SMART. The Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs has reviewed the progress of the implementation of Project SMART. What is this Project SMART? It envisages for developing the surrounding areas of Mumbai and Ahmedabad high-speed railway stations to enhance the accessibility and convenience of commuters and the other stakeholders, and also to promote economic activities within the vicinity of the station areas. So, Project SMART aims at developing the surrounding areas in and around of the Mumbai and Ahmedabad high-speed railway stations by enhancing the accessibility and connectivity of convenience to commuters and also to the other stakeholders, and also by promoting the economic activities within the vicinity and the surrounding areas of these station areas. The nodal agency that is established for implementing the Project SMART is the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs under the Government of India. Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs and the Ministry of Railways have signed a memorandum of understanding for technical cooperation with Japan International Cooperation Agency or JICA for developing 4 model high-speed railway stations in India. Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, in collaboration with the Ministry of Railways and in partnership with the Japan International Cooperation Agency or JICA, has signed a memorandum of understanding for developing 4 model high-speed railway stations in India. These 4 stations include Sabarmati and Surat in Gujarat and Virar and Thane in Maharashtra. So, these 4 model high-speed railway stations will be developed in Sabarmati and Surat of Gujarat and in Virar and Thane of Maharashtra. Also in news was direct listing. The Companies Amendment Act 2020, section number 5 has been notified by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. The Ministry of Corporate Affairs has notified the Companies Amendment Act 2020 and section number 5 in it. It amended the Companies Act 2013 in such a way that it allowed for direct listing for certain class of unlisted companies to directly issue a certain class of securities in foreign stock exchanges. Previously, unlisted companies are now directly allowed to listing certain class of securities in foreign stock exchanges according to the recent amendment made to the Companies Act of 2013. What is direct listing? Direct listing is a process by which a company can go to public by selling its existing shares instead of offering new shares. It facilitates access to global capital. Till now, the Indian companies can access overseas equity markets only by way of depository receipts or by listing their debt securities on foreign markets. Carbon nanofluorides. What are these carbon nanofluorides? That was in news. Carbon nanofluorides made by the IIT Bombay researchers can convert incident sunlight to heat with utmost of 87% efficiency. So, the researchers from IIT Bombay have established carbon nanofluorides which can convert incident sunlight to heat waves with 87% of efficiency. The high efficiency of nanofluorides comes from 3 properties. What are these? They absorb 3 frequencies in sunlight, basically the infrared frequency, the visible light frequency and the ultraviolet frequency. By way of absorbing these 3 frequencies in sunlight, the high efficiency of nanofluorides can be achieved. The shape of carbon cones ensure that very little light is reflected back and they did not easily dissipate the heat generated into the environment. So, on the basis of these 3 properties, by absorbing 3 frequencies in the sunlight and with the shape of the carbon cones which ensures very less light is reflected back and also by not very easily dissipating the heat generated into the atmosphere or environment, by these 3 properties, carbon nanofluorides were able to achieve highly efficient energy heat wave. These features make nanofluorides a good material to heat the other materials like water using solar energy. So, these features will make the carbon nanofluorides a good to use material to heat the other materials like water using the solar energy. Integral field ultraviolet spectroscope experiment. Integral field ultraviolet spectroscope experiment or INFUSE experiment or INFUSE mission. This was also in news. Integral field ultraviolet spectroscope experiment mission or INFUSE mission has been launched by NASA of America. What is the aim of this mission or what is the objective of the mission? INFUSE mission aims to spectroscopically image a region of Cygnus loop by studying the shock fronts as the material from supernova interacts with the interstellar medium. Now, what is this Cygnus loop that the INFUSE mission is trying to spectroscopically image? Cygnus loop is a remnant of the star that was once 20 times the size of our sun. So, Cygnus loop is the remnant or the remnant of a star that was once upon a time 20 times the size of our star, the sun. Some 20,000 years ago, this Cygnus loop star has collapsed under its own gravity and erupted into a supernova. Now, what is supernova? Supernova is the largest explosion of a star. The largest explosion that can happen to a star is named as supernova. So, some 20,000 years ago, this Cygnus loop star has collapsed under its own gravity and erupted into the largest explosion called as supernova. Infuse mission will be the first far ultraviolet integral field spectrograph in space and will have access to Lyman ultraviolet. Infuse mission is the first far ultraviolet integral field spectrograph in space and it will also have access to the Lyman ultraviolet. Gwalior and Kozhikode joined hands in the UNESCO's Creative Cities Network. In the UNESCO's Creative Cities Network, Gwalior and Kozhikode have secured a place. These two cities are among 55 cities that have joined the United Nations or the UNESCO's Creative Cities Network on the World Cities Day that was held in 31st of October 2023. Gwalior and Kozhikode, Indian cities, are among the 55 other cities that have joined the UNESCO's Creative Cities Network on the World Cities Day that was held on 31st of October 2023. These inclusion or joining of new cities into this network of UNESCO's creative cities were acknowledged for their strong commitment to harnessing the culture and creativity as a part of their developmental strategies. So, these new cities were included basically into this list of UNESCO's creative cities basically to acknowledge the strong commitment that they have displayed towards harnessing the culture and creativity as an integral part of their developmental strategies. Kozhikode is famous as city of literature, whereas Gwalior is famous as city of music. Some important information about Kozhikode, city of literature. It has a robust literary foundation with over 500 libraries and more than 70 publishers. It is also boasts of a high level literary education. It also boasts a high level of literary education. It is also a permanent venue for the annual Kerala Literature Festival and numerous book festivals. In Kerala, on an annual basis, Kerala Literature Festival is held in the city of Kozhikode, which is famous as city of literature. And this Kozhikode city also hosts various or numerous book festivals. Gwalior, or the city of music. It has a rich musical history encompassing various legends like Mia Tansen or Ramtanu Pandey and Baliti Baura. It is also considered as the birthplace of Gwalior Gharana, one of the oldest Hindustani musical gharanas. Gwalior, city of music. The other Indian cities that were included in the network of the UNESCO's creative cities: Mumbai for films, Chennai for music, Hyderabad for gastronomy, Varanasi for music, Jaipur for crafts and folk art, and Srinagar for crafts and folk art. So, the other cities which are included in the UNESCO's creative cities network include Mumbai for film, Chennai for music, Hyderabad for gastronomy, Varanasi for music, Jaipur and Srinagar for crafts and folk art. Some important background information about the UNESCO's Creative Cities Network. This network was created in the year 2004. The tag gives global recognition and also helps to boost terrorism. It has around 350 creative cities in its network in more than 100 countries, spanning 7 creative fields. So, what are the various fields which are considered for recognizing the creative cities? Crafts and folk art, design, film, gastronomy, literature, media, arts and also music. So, these are the 7 fields which are considered for granting this tag of the Creative Cities Network of UNESCO. some important background information about UNESCO. United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, or more popular as UNESCO, was established in the year 1945. What are the objectives behind the establishment of UNESCO? To contribute to the building of a culture of peace and the eradication of poverty, and to promote sustainable development and intercultural dialogue through education, sciences, culture, communication and information. Members include 194, and it also includes 12 associate members. India is also a member of UNESCO, United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. The Universal Copyright Convention of 1952, Man and the Biosphere Program 1971, World Heritage Convention 1972, Convention for the Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage of 2003 are the other initiatives of UNESCO other than the Creative Cities Network. Universal Copyright Convention of 1952, Man and the Biosphere Program of 1971, World Heritage Convention 1972, Convention for the Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage of 2003 are some of the other initiatives of UNESCO. RBI to regulate entities facilitating cross-border payment transactions. RBI has formulated few guidelines to regulate various entities that can facilitate cross-border payment transactions. Some important news about this. Previously, RBI has only regulated the payment aggregators, PAs, that processed domestic online transaction. However, now the RBI has framed some guidelines or regulations that can facilitate cross-border or international payment transactions. What are payment aggregators? Payment aggregators enable e-commerce sites and merchants to accept various payment methods from customers. This eliminates the need for merchants and e-commerce platforms to create their own payment integration systems. One such example of payment aggregators is Paytm. The directives of the RBI are issued under the Payment and Settlement Systems Act of 2007 and also Foreign Exchange Management Act of 1999. The entities will be treated as the payment aggregator cross-border. All these entities who facilitate cross-border payment transactions will now be treated as the payment aggregators cross-border or PACB. The maximum value per unit of goods and services sold or purchased in import and export transactions processed by the payment aggregators cross-borders shall be 25 lakh rupees only. So the maximum value that can be processed by these payment aggregator cross-borders is 25 lakh rupees only per a unit of goods and services that are either sold or purchased in the import and export transactions. Cross-border payments, what are these? Financial transactions where the payer and the recipient are based in two separate countries. The payer and the recipient belonging to two different countries, and the financial transactions that are taking place between these two entities is called as cross-border payments. They cover both wholesale and also retail payments, including remittances. So both wholesale and retail payments and also remittances are included in the transactions. Now what is the significance of the cross-border payments? It has a huge potential. It is estimated that around $190 trillion in 2023, and it is expected to reach around $290 trillion in transaction values by 2030. So it has a very huge potential. And the ease of doing business. like manufacturers expanding their supply chains across borders. So, it also eases the business and the practice of business, wherein the manufacturers can start expanding their footprints for supply chains across borders. The ease of transactions. Migrants living in the other countries can send money via international remittances. Globalization. It promotes international trade and e-commerce. Now, what are the challenges that are imposed? What are the challenges that are included in the cross-border transactions? The lack of standardization of the financial data, security risk including money laundering and the possibility of terrorist financing, and also different governmental regulations in different countries. These are the challenges that are facing the facilitation of cross-border payments. Some of the steps taken by the Government of India to facilitate or ease the cross-border payments include Payments Vision 2025. It leverages India's efforts and builds on the focus of the G20 chair to enhance cross-border payments. Payments Vision 2025 will leverage the India's capabilities, and also it builds on the focus of the G20 to enhance the cross-border payments. UPI systems, advancing bilateral links with the other countries including Singapore very recently and United Arab Emirates for cross-border payments. The Government of India has signed agreements, memorandum of agreements with Singapore and very recently with United Arab Emirates for facilitating cross-border transactions or cross-border payments by using UPI systems. NIPL, National Payments Corporation Limited, International Payments Limited. NIPL has undertaken various initiatives across nations to enable cross-border acceptance of BHIM UPI QR at merchant establishments. This organization called as NIPL, which stands for National Payments Corporation of India Limited, International Payments Limited, NIPL has undertaken various initiatives and measures across nations to enable cross-border acceptance of the BHIM UPI QR at merchant establishments. These are some of the steps and initiatives which are taken by the Government of India to enable cross-border payments and transactions. Some other important news include the central government to appoint national level monitors to oversee livestock schemes. National level monitors will be third party independent monitors, which includes individuals and institutions deployed by the government. So, these national level monitors will be third party independent monitors, and it can include both the individuals and institutions but deployed by the central government. Now, what is the need for national level monitors to oversee livestock schemes? To remove technical backstopping faced by the implementing agencies in the implementation of various schemes related to livestock. National level monitors will determine if incentives to paravets or technicians or farmers have been distributed as envisaged or planned under the scheme and whether the data generated has been uploaded or not. Coverage of the national level monitors. The National Livestock Mission, which focuses on entrepreneurship and development of entrepreneurship and breed improvement in poultry, sheep, goat and piggery, including feed and fodder development. So, the coverage of the national level monitors include the National Livestock Mission or NLM, which focuses on the development of entrepreneurial capabilities and also breed improvement in poultry, sheep, goat, piggery, including the feed and fodder development. The other scope includes Rashtriya Gokul Mission, for the development and conservation of indigenous bovine breeds. So, Rashtriya Gokul Mission aims for the development and conservation of the indigenous bovine breeds. National Program for Dairy Development. The National Program for Dairy Development, it is aimed at enhancing the quality of milk and the milk products and also increase the share of the organized milk procurement. Livestock Health and Disease Control Program to improve the animal health sector by prophylactic vaccination programs and capacity building. What is the significance of the livestock sector from the point of view of the Indian economy? The livestock sector contribution to the agricultural sector has increased from around 24% in 2014 to 30% in 2021. So, the contribution of the livestock sector to the agriculture has increased from around 24% in 2014 to 30% in 2021. It is also witnessing an annual growth rate of close to 8% at constant prices from 2014 till 2021. It has contributed around 6.3% of the total gross value added in 2020-2021. So, this is the significance or the importance of the livestock sector not only to the agriculture sector but also to the Indian economy as a whole. Bletchley Declaration. This is the world's first agreement on artificial intelligence which is signed at the UK AI Safety Summit which was held very recently. Bletchley Declaration is named after the Bletchley Park. This declaration called as Bletchley Declaration is named after Bletchley Park which is the venue for the summit, and it is also known for being Britain's code breaking center during the World War II. This Bletchley Declaration was signed by the European Union and 28 other countries including India, US, UK, China, France, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. South Korea will be co-hosting a mini virtual AI summit in next 6 months. United Kingdom has hosted the AI Safety Summit in which Bletchley Declaration, which is considered as the world's first agreement on artificial intelligence, was signed. Some of the key highlights of Bletchley Declaration include recognition of the AI's potential to enhance human well-being as well as also to recognize the risks posed by the AI including frontier AI. One of the most important highlight of this Bletchley Declaration is that it has recognized the AI's potential for transforming and enhancing the well-being of human beings, and also it has recognized the risks and the dangers that are posed by the AI including the frontier AI. So, what is frontier AI? Frontier AI refers to highly capable foundation generative AI models that could pose dangerous capabilities that can pose severe risks to public safety. Frontier AI refers to highly capable foundation generative AI models that could possess dangerously capabilities that can pose severe risks to public safety. Substantial risks may also arise from potential intentional misuse or unintended issues of control relating to alignment with human intent. These issues are in part because those capabilities are not fully understood yet and are therefore hard to predict and to define properly. Since such risks are inherently international in nature, there is a need for an international cooperation to address these issues and risks. So, all actors including the companies, civil society and academia will need to work together towards this endeavor of facing the risks of AI. An agenda for mitigating risks will focus on building a shared scientific understanding and risk-based policies across countries. Now, what is the criticism of this Bletchley Declaration? It lacks a firm commitment and concrete measures to tackle the risks and dangers posed by AI and frontier AI. Also in news was the electoral bond scheme. Why was this in news? Because a five-judge constitution bench of the Supreme Court of India has remarked that the electoral bond scheme suffers from selective anonymity, leading to some information loopholes. The donors, instead of investing a big sum to purchase the bond, may aggregate bonds for smaller amounts from different buyers. It is easier for the party in power to get all the information relating to the donations of the opposition parties. Now, what is the electoral bond scheme? Electoral bonds are interest-free bearer instruments announced in 2017 Union Budget. State Bank of India or SBI is the only bank that is authorized to sell these electoral bonds. Also in news was the scheme to provide financial assistance to prisoners. Scheme to provide financial assistance to poor prisoners. The Union Home Ministry has advised states to finalize the beneficiaries under the central scheme for underprivileged prisoners. The Union Home Ministry has suggested the states to finalize the list of beneficiaries to be covered under the central scheme for underprivileged and poor prisoners. Now, some important information about the scheme to provide financial assistance to poor and underprivileged prisoners. It aims at enabling poor prisoners to get out of prison. It requires states and union territories to identify eligible prisoners for benefiting under the scheme. The center would reimburse fines up to 40,000 rupees for each of the under trial prisoner, and it would reimburse 25,000 rupees each for convicts languishing in jail due to financial hardships. It is not available for persons accused under certain laws like the Prevention of Corruption Act or Unlawful Activities Prevention Act or NDPS and any other serious offences. So, except for these offences, prisoners who have been languishing in jail due to hardships, financial hardships, will be provided fees reimbursement or fine reimbursement up to 40,000 rupees for each of the under trial convict and also for 25,000 rupees each for the convicts which are languishing in jail due to financial hardships. Also in news was sustainability bond. What is this sustainability bond? India Export-Import Bank has listed its 10-year $1 billion sustainability bond on sustainability bond market platform at London Stock Exchange. The Indian Exim Bank has listed its 10-year $1 billion sustainability bond on sustainability bond market platform at the London Stock Exchange. What is this Indian Exim Bank? And what is this sustainability bond? That was in news. India Exim Bank finances and facilitates India's international trade, which includes exports and imports. In January, the Indian Exim Bank has raised $1 billion by issuing a 10-year sustainability bond under its environmental and social governance framework. Under its environmental and social governance framework, the Indian Exim Bank has raised $1 billion by issuing a 10-year sustainability bond. Now, this Indian Exim Bank has listed its 10-year $1 billion sustainability bond on sustainability bond market platform at the London Stock Exchange. Sustainability bonds are specifically designed to raise money for environmental and socially responsible goals and objectives. So these sustainability bonds are basically raised to finance funds and money for environmentally and socially responsible initiatives and goals. The sustainability bonds combines the features of green bonds and also social bonds. Till June 2022, the sustainability bond market has reached $2.9 trillion in funds. Also in news was the Global Conference on Cooperation in Enforcement Matters. Global Cooperation on Enforcement in Global Conference on Cooperation in Enforcement Matters. The inaugural Global Conference on Cooperation on Enforcement Matters organized by the Directorate of Revenue Intelligence or DRI was recently concluded in New Delhi. So this is the first ever session, this is the first ever meeting that was organized by the Directorate of Revenue Intelligence, and this was conducted in New Delhi. The Global Conference on Cooperation on Enforcement Matters session has focused on narcotics and the linkage between the money laundering and cross-border smuggling of contrabands including precious metals and gems. The session has reinforced the need for cooperation among customs administrations, international organizations and law enforcement agencies in the fight against cross-border organized crimes. Now, what is the Directorate of Revenue Intelligence? DRI is the apex anti-smuggling agency of India, working under the supervision of the Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs under the Ministry of Finance. Directorate of Revenue Intelligence is the apex or the highest anti-smuggling agency authority of India, working under the direct supervision of the Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs under the Ministry of Finance.